Morant with a running start. Elevates. Oh, it dunks. Oh, my goodness.
Tie game in overtime. Gasol will turn his heat. It's gone. Memphis on top. 7-10 remaining. Conley now with three. Count it. A 15-point lead for Memphis. And Blake Griffin gets into it on the floor with Randolph. Hard to tell if there are any punches being thrown under there, but Griffin took acceptance.
Adams going long. Morant. He hit it. John Morant, insanity.
You gotta be kidding me.
Welcome to Grits and Grinds, a Memphis Grizzlies podcast. My name is Keith Parrish. The Grizzlies won on Friday, a home victory over the Los Angeles Clippers. Then the Grizzlies lost on Sunday, horrifically, to the Chicago Bulls, a road game where a lot of rather strange things occurred. So on this episode, I will talk about both games. I will bounce back and forth between them, I'm sure. I will also give us an update on kind of where the Grizzlies are as we head into the final 7 days of the regular season. I will begin, I guess, with the victory on Friday. The Grizzlies got a rematch against the Clippers. The Clippers took the first game on Wednesday, and the Grizzlies came out very flat on Friday night, and they fell down by 20 points in the first quarter. They were down 34-14, and now both of these games over the weekend, Friday and Sunday, there are some weird parallels. Both games were a tale of two halves, although the line of demarcation in the Clippers game wasn't necessarily halftime. But both of these games featured gigantic, massive, very long runs. In the game against the Clippers, after they fell down by 20, the Grizzlies then outscored the Clippers 83-41 to get their lead up to 22. They end up winning this game by 14. It's the largest margin of victory in franchise history in a game where they trailed by 20 points. It was a case of immediate regression for the Clippers, where on Wednesday night, Russell Westbrook and Robert Covington went 12 for 12 from three. On Friday, those guys combined to go 0 for 4 from three. The game on Wednesday, they combined to score 63 points. The game on Friday, Covington and Westbrook combined for 6 points. Also notable in this game on Friday night, Kawhi Leonard played, but he only played in the first half. He played 18 minutes. Did not appear after halftime. It was a little bit weird. I guess everything with Kawhi Leonard is a little bit odd. The Grizzlies' individual stats for the game against the Clippers, they were also not normal. Ja Morant had 10 points and 4 assists and 3 turnovers. So not much statistically for Ja Morant in this game. Jaren had only 9 points. Ja and Jaren combined to score 19 points. Jaren did get 3 blocks and 2 steals, also 8 rebounds. That's pretty good. Bane was, I think, comfortably the player of the game. He had 22 points, got 3 steals, tied his career high with 9 assists. The bench did a lot of great work in this one. Tillman did a lot of great work in this one. Tillman led the team in plus-minus on Friday night. He had 14 points, 8 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals, and 2 blocks. Put together a very nice little 4-game sample in the 3 games before this one, where Tillman really putting up some great numbers, especially in the steal and field goal percentage categories. He's making over 78% of his field goal attempts in the past 5 games. That runs through the game on Sunday against the Bulls. Luke Kennard was on fire once again on Friday night. He made 5 out of 10 threes off the bench, scored 17 points. This was his 9th consecutive game off the bench, scoring in double figures, his 10th straight game overall. He started the previous game against the Clippers. The 9 straight games in double digits off the bench. That's the longest streak for any bench player this season on the Grizzlies. Brandon Clark had 8 straight games where he scored in double figures. By the way, the longest streak in franchise history, scoring 10 or more off the bench, that belongs to Mike Miller, who had 19 straight games scoring in double digits. Hakeem Warwick is second with a 14-game streak. The more you know. Luke Kennard, after this game on Friday night against the Clippers, was shooting 54% as a Grizzly. He'd made 61 three-pointers in his 22 games, was shooting 54% from three. That is the highest three-point percentage over any 22-game span in Grizzlies franchise history for a player with a minimum of 80 attempts. If you lower it to 60 attempts over any 22-game span, well, then Mike Miller has the most accurate stretch. But I massaged the stats to make Luke Kennard come out on top. Regardless, an incredible first 22 games for Luke Kennard. Now, the shooting and scoring did not continue for Luke. Sunday against the Bulls, Luke only scored 6 points all in the first half, made 2 out of 7 three-pointers. So that's what snapped his streak of scoring in double digits off the bench. But the Grizzlies on Friday night, you're feeling good because we pick up another home win. We extend the new franchise record for home victories to 34. Grizzlies are 34-6 at home. They can make it 35 home wins if they take care of business on Tuesday night against the Trailblazers. They are massive favorites against the Trailblazers. Of course, the Trailblazers were 19.5-point underdogs on Sunday, but they beat the Timberwolves. But the Grizzlies have a chance to move to 35 home wins for the season, which would be a very impressive new franchise mark for most home wins in a season. The previous mark, of course, was 32. The Grizzlies moved to 13-0 on Friday or Saturday night home games. And I think generally we were feeling pretty good about our Grizzlies. I know we had a Grizzlies watch party in Nashville. It was a lot of fun. Of course, there was weather, significant weather events happening in the state. I know a lot of people in the Memphis area were dealing with that severe weather during the Grizzlies game. It arrived in Nashville later on, so the watch party was not as highly attended. Thankfully, Nashville did not get too much severe weather. It had weakened by the time it got to us. But still, the people at the watch party, we had a good time. We see the Grizzlies come back from this big deficit. We're avenging this Clippers loss. Bane and Kennard are scoring a bunch. Although, as a team, the Grizzlies only made 9 three-pointers on Friday night. That snapped their streak of 12 straight games with 10 or more threes. But you win the home game, you feel like, all right, we're ramping up for the playoffs. We won 8 out of 9. Things are looking nice. And then you go into the game on Sunday against the Chicago Bulls. You're a 1-point favorite. I was extremely confident for the Grizzlies. I thought the matchup with the Bulls is good. The Bulls aren't going to beat you on three-pointers. So you're not going to lose the three-point battle probably against the Bulls. Oh, we definitely did not. We won the three-point battle by a ton. More on that in a second. I look at the Bulls and I think, okay, they're not going to kill us on second chance scoring. They're not particularly good at rebounding, so that's not a way where we're going to lose. So I thought, all right, our weaknesses are, we can get beat on three-pointers and we can get beat on the glass. I don't think the Bulls are going to do that to us. And I was feeling pretty full of myself in the first half as the Grizzlies ran out to this huge lead. The Grizzlies got up by 23. The Grizzlies were on fire in the first half. They knocked in 13 three-pointers in just the first half. Dylan Brooks made 3 out of 6 in the first half. Luke Kennard checked in, knocked down 2 threes. Bane was making threes. Everybody was hitting the threes. We're up by 23. Get a little sloppy to close the half. They don't score for the final 2 minutes of the half. I was doing a playback watch party online, and I was talking about, all right, finally, another 70-point first half. We'll add this to our tally of most 70-point first halves for any season. And now Ja Morant gets one. He's trying to catch Tyus Jones for the most games started as point guard in first halves where the Grizzlies scored at least 70 points. Well, guess what? The Grizzlies never got to 70 points. They were stuck on 68. Still a very nice offensive performance, scoring 68 points and a half. You're winning by a lot. And then came the second half. And there's an argument to be made that this was the worst second half in Grizzlies franchise history. They were outscored by 36 points in the second half. That is the most points the Grizzlies have ever been outscored by in any half in franchise history. They lost the second half 75-39. They lost the third quarter 40-16. That's not the worst quarter in franchise history based on scoring deficit. In 2019, they lost a quarter to the Raptors 45-14. I'll be honest, I don't totally remember that game. But the Grizzlies get run out of the gym in the second half. And it's weird because they even had a run in the midst of losing a half by 36. They had a big run to cut the deficit to 3. They were within 3 with 6 minutes to go. And you're like, okay, forget everything that's happened in this game. We're only down by 3 to the Bulls with 6 minutes to go. Let's go. We can do this. We can depend on our main guys. We can play heavy minutes to our starters. We did play heavy minutes to our starters. The starters got blasted. And the Grizzlies lose by 21, despite being within 3 with 6 minutes to go. A tale of two halves. The Grizzlies make 6 3-pointers in the second half. They make 19 3-pointers for the game. They make 10 more 3-pointers than the Bulls in this game. This is the first loss in Grizzlies franchise history where they had 10 more threes than their opponent. Previously, they were 14-0, including the playoffs, if they had 10 or more threes than their opponent. So they win the 3-point battle by 30 points and lose. They're outscored in the paint 70-36. You could say, how do you lose a game where you make 10 more 3-pointers than your opponent? Specifically, how do the Grizzlies, a good defensive team, a team that struggles, if there's a weakness, you say, all right, half-court offense, not very good. Well, if you make 19 threes, you'd think we're virtually unbeatable. How do you lose when you make that many more threes than your opponent? Well, you get dominated in the paint, 70 points to 36. But more specifically, you get dominated in points off of turnovers. The Bulls outscored the Grizzlies 31-0 in points off of turnovers. It feels like that's got to be some kind of record. I don't know how to look that up. I mean, maybe it's not a record, but 31-0? In points off of turnovers, that number is shocking. That is a shocking number. The Bulls players combined for 1 turnover. Now, I'm a little bit confused about the overall NBA record for fewest turnovers in a game. The record for fewest turnovers in a game is 1. Now, the Bulls had some shot clock violations, so they had 2 team turnovers and 1 individual turnover, which equals 3. But when I look on Basketball Reference, it lists the Bulls as only having 1 turnover for the game. So I don't know. It's possible the Bulls tied the NBA record for the fewest turnovers in the game. I'm not completely sure how those official stats are counted. Regardless, that's not very many turnovers. Regardless, the fewest turnovers a Grizzlies opponent had previously this season in a game is 8. Basketball Reference lists the Bulls as having 1. Not just that, the Grizzlies themselves turned the ball over 16 times in the second half. In the second half, it was 16 turnovers to 0. Ja Morant picked up his 7th triple-double of the season, and he was terrible in the second half. He had a great first half. Tale of two halves this Bulls game. First half, Ja Morant had 12 points, 4 assists, 6 rebounds, no turnovers. Second half, he had 5 points, 5 turnovers. Minus 26. Picked up 6 assists in the second half. All right, 6 assists, 5 turnovers. Combined with the Clippers game, that's 2 rough performances for Ja Morant. You saw in the third quarter that the Grizzlies kept driving into the paint and getting stuck. Happened to Desmond Bane. Desmond Bane in the second half had 8 points, 3 turnovers, and only 1 assist. Bane would drive into the paint, commit a turnover. Morant would drive into the paint. The Bulls would collapse on him. He didn't seem to have an option. Didn't seem to adjust. He wasn't scoring in the paint, and then he was turning the ball over a lot. The turnovers led to the fast break points. They led to the points off of turnovers, of course. The Bulls just kept scoring. The Grizzlies could not get stops to set their defense. And then their half-court offense was abysmal. Dylan Brooks, he was 1 for 7 from the field in the second half. 3 turnovers. 0 assists. I mean, frankly, a good argument that it's the worst half of basketball, maybe in Grizzlies franchise history. Maybe not. I mean, that 2019 season where they lost that quarter to the Raptors. I remember there also was the Hornets game. There were all kinds of quarters and runs where the Grizzlies were getting outscored like 24-1, 24-0. I remember tweeting back then about, hey, this is the fifth run of 18-0 or worse in the last 8 games or something. Those aren't the exact stats, but something vaguely like that I remember happening. But this is definitely on the short list. Getting outscored 75-39.5, the biggest scoring deficit for a half in franchise history. The only time in franchise history they've scored under 40.5 and also allowed more than 70 points. Brutal. The Bulls ended the game on a 90-46 run. The Grizzlies went from up 61-38 to losing 128-107. That's a 44-point swing. Now, it's interesting because in the previous game, the Grizzlies had that 83-41 run, which was a 42-point swing. So in consecutive games, we witnessed a 42-point swing from down 20 to up 22 to a 44-point swing, up 23 to down 21. By the way, Ja Morant's 7th triple-double. He only had 4 coming into this season. He now has more triple-doubles this season than Marc Gasol, who's second in franchise history triple-doubles, had in his entire Grizzlies career. Desmond Bane in the game against the Bulls. He made his 500th career three-pointer. He tied Jason Williams for the 4th most threes in franchise history. Jaren Jackson Jr. had a huge game. He battled foul trouble. Now, maybe you could argue, should we be taking our guys out with foul trouble again? When Jaren left the game in the third quarter with his 4th foul, things went off the rails very, very quickly. Santi Aldama also battled a little bit of foul trouble. His minutes were limited in the first quarter. We picked up 2 quick ones. Why do we care about foul trouble for our backup bigs? I will never understand that. Because of foul trouble, because of just situational decisions, the Grizzlies played a lot of what we will call small ball. Aldama as the only big. Aldama and Roddy front courts. It's just a tough ask. The Grizzlies went super small ball. They played Tyus Jones and Ja Morant and Luke Kennard and Desmond Bane. Bane at the 4 with Jaren at the 5. All right, it was pretty fun. It was frisky for a little bit there. Just the Grizzlies are so small. It's going to continue to be an issue for the Grizzlies. Steven Adams, by the way, we don't know if he's coming back. This Thursday, it will be 4 weeks since they announced that he would be out for approximately, or he would be reevaluated in approximately 4 weeks. March 9th, they said, in about 4 weeks, we're going to reevaluate him. So apparently he's going to have an MRI probably this week. Maybe we'll get some more news. Without Steven Adams, without Brandon Clark, it is what it is, basically. The Grizzlies are going to be small most of the time. And it's something that they're going to have to overcome. You're going to need Ja Morant to be, let's say, just Ja Morant. He's got to be more of the scorer, and I don't know if it's just like he's looking not as good or rusty since he's come back. I thought he was fantastic in the first half, just fantastic. Maybe that's just swayed by all the other three-pointers going in. anytime you make 13 out of 25 threes in a half, you're going to feel like, all right, everybody's playing great. Seemed like he was great, but the second half was really bad for Ja Morant. And for the Grizzlies to succeed without, Steven Adams, you'd think it has to be much better games. Ja Morant's got to be superstar again. But Jaren had 31 in this game. I got distracted describing Jaren Jackson Jr.'s game. Jaren led the Grizzlies with 31 points against the Bulls, despite the foul trouble. Jaren had a season high 5 made three-pointers. Sean Coleman has a great stat about Jaren Jackson Jr.'s season. He is one of a handful of players ever to play at least 60 games in a season and average at least 17.5 points per game, 3 blocks per game, and a steal per game. The other players to do it: David Robinson, Hakeem Olajuwon, Patrick Ewing, Kareem, and Bill Walton. So Jaren joins a very illustrious list of Hall of Fame centers. Only players to play at least 60 games in a season and average at least 17.5 points per game, 3 blocks, and a steal per game. Jaren is the first player in league history with at least 180 blocks, 93s, and 60 steals in a season. Despite Jaren's awesome game, Grizzlies just get annihilated in that second half. It was interesting, the strategic decisions they made on defense for this game, where they had Xavier Tillman actually matched up on DeMar DeRozan. Dylan Brooks was guarding Zach LaVine. Tillman was guarding DeRozan. They had Jaren guarding Nick Vucevic, and then they basically were hiding Ja Morant and Desmond Bane on Caruso and Patrick Beverley. It felt like in the third quarter, and again, the wheels fell off the wagon, but it felt like maybe the Bulls had figured out how to better attack Xavier Tillman with DeMar DeRozan. I mean, DeMar DeRozan versus Tillman one-on-one, it's not a fair fight, but Tillman is a very good one-on-one defender. Honestly, he probably can do a better job than anybody else the Grizzlies had out there. If you, of course, don't want to get Jaren involved with that, which I don't think you do. He already got in foul trouble, but that's just, with the foul drawing capabilities of DeRozan, that seems like a bad choice. But it seemed like the Bulls adjusted. They got DeRozan the ball in a lot of different places. They got him cutting to the basket. They got him on a back cut a couple times. They got him, isolated where he could just go to work. And so maybe the Bulls adjusted there. The Grizzlies started the second half by having actually Tillman miss 2 free throws, and then Ja Morant missed a layup, and you felt like, all right, that opened the door just a little bit. And then, of course, the deluge of turnovers began, and the Grizzlies could never recover. And that's how you end up with a one-on-one weekend. Thankfully, the Grizzlies got a huge gift from the San Antonio Spurs as they upset the Sacramento Kings, which was desperately needed for the Grizzlies to hang on to that 2 seed. Let's get into more of the standing stuff and the overall team outlook as they head into the final week. We'll do that right after this short break. Grizz fans, 2023-2024 Grizzlies season tickets are on sale now. Season tickets are the best way to guarantee your seats to the biggest matchups at the lowest prices all season long, as well as receive early access to 2023 playoff tickets before they go on sale to the general public. For more information, visit grizzlies.com/season tickets or call 901-888-HOOP today. Okay, so the Grizzlies lost the game on Sunday to the Bulls, but the Kings did not take advantage to gain on the Grizzlies. The Kings lost as huge favorites against the San Antonio Spurs. So the Grizzlies, who have 4 games left, have the magic number of 3 to clinch the 2 seed. Any combination of Grizzlies wins and Kings losses equaling 3 clinches the 2 seed for the Grizzlies. The Grizzlies play Tuesday night, home game against the Trailblazers. You got to win it, obviously. You chalk that up as a win. The Grizzlies win that one. They hit their over for most sports books. A lot of places had them at 48.5 wins. They've already hit that with 49. Many other places had them at 49.5. So if the Grizzlies win one more game, they win on Tuesday, they'll hit their over for the 4th straight season, every season of Ja Morant and Taylor Jenkins. An impressive achievement. Then, second night of a back-to-back, they travel to New Orleans to the Pelicans. You would guess, I would guess, that's going to be a chance for the hustle guys to play. I don't think you're going to see many of the regulars play that second night of a back-to-back. Maybe you will. Maybe you'll need to pick up that extra victory to hang on to the 2 seed. Then Friday night is against the Bucks on the road, and then Sunday, final day of the regular season, you play a road game at the Thunder. That game is likely going to be very meaningful for the Thunder. Fingers crossed you have everything wrapped up. I don't know if you do that as a dress rehearsal game. I doubt it. I think the Grizzlies are who they are. They know what they are. And, you hope you're going to pick up at least 2 or 3 wins. You pick up 2 wins. You hope the Kings lose once, and then you have that 2 seed. Now, who are we going to play in the playoffs? No idea. No one has any idea. The standings are so closely packed together. We don't even know which teams in the Western Conference are going to be in the play-in. It could be basically, one of 7 teams, or 4 of 7 teams, is, I guess, a clear way to say that. The Clippers, Warriors, Lakers, and Pelicans all have 38 losses. That is 5 through 8 in the West all have 38 losses. And then you have the Timberwolves and Thunder. Timberwolves have 40 losses. Thunder have 41 losses. And then outside looking in, you got the Mavericks with 42 losses and the Jazz with 42 losses. The Jazz are actually back sort of alive. They're only 1 loss behind the Thunder. They're not, odds are they're not going to make the play-in, but they're still alive. So all of those teams theoretically could be in the play-in. Thus, all of those teams could theoretically face the Grizzlies if they are the 2 seed. So there's basically no way to know who you're going to end up playing. Personally, I am just hoping that the Grizzlies dodge the Warriors, the Suns, and the Lakers. I don't really want any part of those matchups in the first round or second round. We might get lucky right now, or it was until the Warriors lost to a Jokic-less Nuggets team on Sunday. It was Suns, Warriors in that 4-5 slot, which is what we all dream of, where the Nuggets, Warriors, and Suns are all on the opposite side of the bracket from the Grizzlies. I don't want to play. I don't want to play the Lakers in the first round. The Lakers are playing very, very well, and I am pessimistic that Steven Adams is going to return. So I think regardless, the Grizzlies' first round matchup is going to be a pretty tough battle. It's going to be a tough matchup regardless, and I don't want to face Anthony Davis and what the Lakers have going on right now. As far as a couple other stats, as I wrap up and scroll through my notes. Against the Clippers on Friday night, the Grizzlies used a 28-4 first half run to erase the Clippers' lead, and that run featured the David Roddy dunk. My word, Roddy. That man has a family. He dunked all over Zubac. Very, very incredible play from David Roddy. In the Bulls game, another stat for the tale of two halves. The bench in the second half of the Bulls game made one field goal attempt. Santi Aldama hit a 3. Everyone else was 0 for 6 with no points. That's Tyus and Kennard and Roddy. In the Bulls game, John Conchar was healthy and not in the rotation. They went 9-man rotation against the Bulls, with your bench guys being Tyus and Luke Kennard and Roddy and Aldama. That's the same thing they did in the Clippers game on Friday. They played 9 guys against the Clippers, but Conchar was out with injury on Friday night. He was healthy for the Bulls game. They did not play him until garbage time at the very end. And then finally, Dylan Brooks against the Bulls was 5 out of 15 from the field. He did make 4 3-pointers, and Dylan has extended his personal best streak of consecutive games with a made 3. He's made at least 1 3-pointer in 21 straight games. Anyways, that's everything I have wrapping up these games. I appreciate you listening. Please subscribe to the Grits and Grinds YouTube channel. Please write me a 5-star review in whatever podcast app you are listening to this in. Tell a friend about the show. Hope you have a great Monday. Talk to you soon. Go Grizz.